What's going on, my pretty pandas? It's your huggable hipster here, back for another tea talk of where we are going to be discussing the latest in gaming news and technology, brought to you in part by yours truly. So today's tea talk is going to be a tiny bit shorter, considering the fact that there really isn't much gaming news that I found, but what I did find, it's interesting. I don't know why I just pet you like that. This isn't an ASMR channel. So today's first article I'm actually really excited about as I scroll up to the top, where we see Resident Evil 8 announcement, release date, and everything else we know so far. What did I tell y'all? My predictions came true. Resident Evil 8 is coming, and she finna throw hands. It states here in the article that Resident Evil 8, unlike a lot of big other names potentially on the horizon, which is no surprise after the critical and commercial success of Resident Evil 7, and number 2 coming up next weekend. Not tomorrow, because I made a boo-boo. It's next weekend, on the 25th. Actually, by the way, just want to point this out, I'm going to a release party in the area that I live in for Resident Evil, where I'm going to be getting it on Thursday night before the release of it on Friday. So I'm excited about that, and yes, I will be vlogging it. Now, it says in the article as well, this might come as no surprise to you, but we know for sure that Resident Evil 8 is in the early stages of development. Capcom, or at least certain members of Resident Evil team has stated this. It's earliest confirmed that the next title in the series is already being worked on, and Biohazard was always planned to represent the first new entry in the rebooted Resident Evil saga. Now, the thing is that we are now probably going to see a trailer or any other kind of news coming from this until probably 2020, because it's probably going to get a release date during that time anyway. It takes a very long time to even come up with a lot of the plot line and continuation for a game, so I would not be surprised if this game didn't fully come out until 2021, or the trailer to come out in as early as 2020. So yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think of this article down in the description below. It's a bit of a long one, so bear with it, it's really, really good. So next up, we're gonna dive into some tea that a lot of you Star Wars fans have heard about, probably not liked, but you know what, I really honestly am not sure what's going on with EA at this point, so let's dive into this next story. So this is an update from the original article that I saw, but EA cancels open world Star Wars game. I mean, for all intents and purposes, shouldn't they just give back the rights of Star Wars? They're messing around with it way too much. Way too much, in my opinion. With this being an open world game that was supposed to titillate and make people's brains go wild with fun and frenzy, they just immediately cancel it. Just like what Konami did with Silent Hills. PT, rest in peace. Now, it states here in the article that EA, Electronic Arts, has cancelled its open world Star Wars game, according to 3 people familiar with the goings-on. This game, announced alongside the shutdown of Visceral Games back in 2017, had been in development at EA's office in Vancouver. Now, the next part I thought was really interesting, where they stated, but it would be accurate to say that EA's Vancouver Star Wars was the same game as Ragtag. When EA Vancouver took it over, it rebooted the Star Wars project entirely, keeping some of the art assets, but transforming it into an open world game. So they completely transformed one game into a completely different story, if I'm assessing that correctly. EA has not shown any of the EA Vancouver's open world Star Wars game publicly, but the publisher talked about it when he announced Visceral's demise. It has become clear that to deliver an experience that players will want to come back and enjoy for a long time to come, we needed to pivot the design, the company said at the time. A development team from across EA Worldwide Studios will take over the development of this game, led by a team from EA Vancouver that has already been working on the project. Now, there has been an update to this article down below when you scroll down before you get to the comment section, where the day after the story went public, EA said the following statement. There has been speculation overnight about the Star Wars projects. As a natural part of the creative process, the great work by our team in Vancouver continues to and will evolve into future Star Wars content and games. We're fully committed to making more Star Wars games. We're very excited about the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order from Respawn, and we'll share more about the new projects when the time is right. So even though that this game is cancelled, there could quite possibly be a new Star Wars game in the works. So, I mean, I'm not a Star Wars fan, never really have been a Star Wars fan, but let me know down in the comments below. For those of you who are you guys excited that this is actually possibly going to give way for a different type of a Star Wars game? Or are you just happy that they canceled the project? Or did you really want the project to continue and were excited for an open world Star Wars game? So next up, we are going to go into some questions for the Tea Talk Talk. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted your questions. As you guys know, for every Tea Talk, we pick one question from the community center on YouTube and one from Twitter. The first question comes from Andrew on Twitter. Thank you so much, Andrew, for sending in your question. It really means a lot. And he asks, what games are coming out in the near future that you are most excited and worried about? Oh man. There are none that I'm extremely worried about. I'll explain why in a moment, but the game that I'm most excited about has to be Ori and the Will of Wisps, besides Resident Evil 2. That's coming out next weekend, but Ori and the Will of Wisps, I am so very excited for the release date for that, because as you guys know, I freaking love Ori and the Blind Forest. Not just the score, but the gameplay, the story, it all has such a cohesive flow to it that it makes me so happy every time that I play it. There's some sad points too, but it makes me happy in a whole to play that game. That I really cannot wait for Ori and the Will of Wisps to be released. I'm just excited to hear the score. Like, I really want to hear the score that they designed for this game. And what game am I most worried about? It's not that I'm worried about it, but I'm kind of anticipating Resident Evil 2 Remake to see if they keep the same storyline with the original Resident Evil 2. For me, this is kind of like going back to my childhood of when I first played the remake of Resident Evil back in 2003, and I really I'm excited for this. Like, I'm worried in the fact, like, I don't know if they're going to keep the same storyline. I know they have to change some things that might have been questionable back in the 90s, but were okay to say instead of now. But yeah, if you guys want a comparison whenever the Resident Evil 2 game comes out of what they did then and what they did differently now, let me know down in the comments below. But that's the only thing I would say I'm worried about. More just anticipating it instead of worry. And our next question comes from the community center on YouTube from Jonathan Alness. I hope I pronounced that correctly, dude. And he asks, question for the Tea Talk. What's more difficult for you? Talking to others like you're a therapist, or going out socializing with new people in general by getting to know who they are? P.S. Love the videos. Keep doing what you do. Thank you so much. That means a lot. And I like this question. It's very different from the questions I normally get. I would think it's more difficult for me to talk to someone like on the regular, like a therapist, because us as therapists, we can get so patronizing. A lot of the time we can get very, very patronizing. And the thing with a lot of therapists is that we question things in order to gain the response that we desire. So it can be very manipulative a lot of the time, and I don't like doing that. So for me, it's easier to go out in public and know people and get to know people by just socializing and being in group events and all that kind of stuff. It's more difficult for me to talk like a therapist, even though I've been trained in it and I know how to do it. It's more difficult for me because I feel empathy towards the person and I don't want to treat them like a kid. But thank you guys so much for entering in your questions. I really, really appreciate it. These questions didn't have much of a theme, but next week there will be a theme for the questions again. Now, next up, you guys know what time it is. It is time for our Korean word of the day. And our Korean word of the day today is good night. Good night, you say 안녕히 주무세요. 안녕히 주무세요 means good night. That is the formal way to say good night. I don't know the informal way, but the way you say good night is 안녕히 주무세요. And what I want to try to do, actually, side note, is I want to be able to address you guys in whatever country I'm in whenever I'm traveling. So let's say whenever I go to Seoul, I will be addressing you guys in Korean, and in the States it'll be in English. If I ever go to Israel, it'll be in Hebrew, that kind of thing. So if I were to address you guys in a vlog right now to continue on the language a bit for a second, it would be 안녕하세요 여러분, 에리얼입니다. So basically it's just you're saying hello everyone. 여러분 is everyone. Like I said, I think it was in a few videos previous, 여러분 means everyone. If you're addressing a crowd, if you're addressing a group of friends, you can say 안녕하세요 여러분. So yeah, I'm excited to get to know more of this language. I can't believe I've already been learning it for a year. It seems crazy to me, like how fast the time goes. But yeah, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and if you guys like my face and what I do, please be sure to subscribe and hit the bell down below, because I make videos every weekday. There is a podcast coming out later today and a vlog coming out on my lifestyle channel, so stay tuned for that, and I will post them in my community section on my channel. Stay casually nerdy, you guys, and I will talk to you all in the videos coming out today and on Monday. Peace.